Could now be the best time for B2B leaders to start their own show on YouTube? Look, I think it could be. I think now would be a really good time to try that. And if you've been thinking about making video content for your business, but you've been worried about burning out, doing something that's really complicated, spending hours editing, then this is for you. Because by the end of this show, this episode, I'm going to give you a really simple roadmap that you can test out for yourself to see if a video show is right for you without overcommitting. This is something that will take you just a few hours a week if you keep it really, really simple. But you'll have a plan by the end of this show. So, what is the problem that a lot of B2B founders and directors face when they're trying to create video content? Well, the number one thing is the time factor, because you're probably good at what you do, but you weren't born a video editor. Maybe you have no interest in it. And so the idea of spending hours learning a new editing platform is overwhelming and you've got other stuff to do. Okay, so I understand that concern. And some of you have maybe tried making content for yourself and it's stop and start. It's not very consistent because you're trying to find a format that works for you. But because you've got competing interests, competing demands, the making of content falls down on that list of to-dos. So it's not that you've got this lack of ideas per se. You've probably got lots of ideas, but it's finding a format that's going to work for you that's not going to take too much time. And so this is where I want to introduce this idea of creating a long-form B2B show that's really easy to produce, really relaxed, and you can just follow that same structure and just keep improving on it. So the type of format that I'm talking about, you're purposely doing it in a way that is non-scripted, very much conversational, and something that you don't have to reinvent the format. You just keep the format and you just keep getting better and better at it. But the idea is that the more you get better at making these longer form pieces of content, you're creating more opportunities for people to get to know you at a deeper level. There's this idea in the Google and marketing space of the 7, 11, and 4 framework, where basically if people want to get to feel like they know you, they need to spend about 7 hours with you in the form of content on in 11 different formats on at least 4 different platforms. It's something like that. Now, this hasn't been scientifically proven. It's more of a rule of thumb. But the idea is the more time people get to spend with you, they get to know you, like you, and trust you more. And so that's the advantage of the longer form format as opposed to just doing short form content, which has its place, but long form is actually really it reduces the pressure of having to be perfect. That's how I would put it. And actually the trends are moving such that now would be a really good time to start building your confidence with long form content. And here's why. And I say this in the context of a show that you would have on YouTube. Because right now, in the form of video podcasts, there are over 1 billion monthly viewers of podcast content on YouTube right now. That is a lot of interest, a lot of people searching for this type of stuff, and YouTube is the number one place for that. And YouTube is not the only place where video podcasts are really shining right now. You've got institutions, these big businesses like Netflix, Spotify, and Apple. Spotify has had their audio podcasts. Joe Rogan, was there exclusively. They're also now going into video podcasting. Now, they wouldn't be making this move unless they saw the trend and the appetite for this kind of thing. So people are taking this. It's not a niche thing anymore. And in the last 3 years, and this speaks to the idea of people sitting back and watching content, not just scrolling. In the last 3 years, YouTube has been the number one streaming platform for it being treated like TV, being streamed to your TV. It's been the number one streaming platform for TV for the last 3 years. So this is indicating that people's behaviors are being, it's centered around taking content that they like, casting it to their TV, and sitting back and watching. That is the behavior. And as far as business content is concerned, so this is a study of 50,000 YouTube channels. And it found that for business and finance content, the content that performs best goes for around 25 to 40 minutes. So if you are interested in finding a format that is low pressure, easy or relatively easy to make, as far as you don't have to worry too much about complex editing and having to learn really complex workflows, and a format that more and more people are looking to consume, look at creating your own B2B show, specifically a video show. Because it's clear from that information, those stats and the trends, that people are craving longer form content, real conversations with substance. And this is a real business opportunity. I'm going to give you some examples of some shows that are well known and some that aren't, but it gives you an idea of the way you can format this show. I'm going to give you an example of the most famous video podcast in the business realm at the moment, and that's Diary of a CEO. Now, he's done content with about business, but he's expanded a lot of his topics. He's talking about health. But his show, his video podcast, is essentially an interview show, and he's interviewed some really big names. And this show, this one in particular, this one goes for over 2.5 hours. That's really long form for you. So that's an example of a video podcast. But that, obviously he's a well-known name, and your show is not going to be probably nowhere near as polished when you start out, especially if you're doing this on your own. And you may not even want to do interviews because the extra time that you have to coordinate with people. So here's another example of a show that you could do for yourself. This guy right here, he's got a channel called One Rental at a Time. So he gives finance advice from his own lived experience. And he goes live pretty much every day. And this is his setup. He's just talking to camera. Now, he's been doing this a while so that he's got people that follow him and do this. He only goes live for about 10, 15 minutes tops. So it's not even in that sort of 20-minute bracket. 10, 15 minutes, and he's just reading the news. That's all he's doing, just reading the news, giving his take on it. And he's been doing this long enough where he's got that following. And so now he offers advertising space. He's got a few different things that he's able to spin off from his show, which means because he's built an asset, he can now leverage that. But he had to make the investment. But this is a very simple setup. He's just talking to camera. He does interviews as well. Another example. These guys have a channel called Live Video School. And here, this is a father and son duo. So they talk about affiliate marketing and things of that nature. But in this format, they are using something like Riverside or StreamYard, and they're in separate spaces. But this is their show, and this is one that they do live. It's just side by side. It's just video side by side. They might do some screen shares, but that's their show. And that one goes for about 45 minutes. That episode does. This is, again, not a very nowhere near as known as Diary of a CEO, but this is something you can get started with today. And you can do it for yourself. You can work with someone if that's easier for you. But that's an example of another show. Last example I'm going to give. This is another format where obviously with Jim's group, they do their monthly trainings with people who have just joined the network, and they have, they've got their small production team here, so that this is the level that they can achieve. But what they do is when they have their franchisees doing their training for the week, they have an opportunity to spend time with the founder and they get to ask Jim questions. And so he answers them off the cuff. So these aren't scripted in advance. He doesn't even know what questions they're going to ask, but these are with real people. And so they'll ask him a whole range of questions. So these are really raw, real conversations. So you can't hide behind AI at this point. You've got to be able to deliver an answer. And some of these questions will be quite specific. But that's the show. That's the show that they publish on an ongoing basis. And the way they started this format for themselves was on a Facebook Live. They didn't even start this way. So they just started with him and the marketing manager sitting side by side in the office, and they went live on Facebook, and they just answered questions that people had over and over again. And that's how they started, just really raw. And so that's what I'm suggesting for you as well, a really a low pressure, low stakes format where you can share your real expertise with people and just putting it in a video podcast style format where there's very little scripting. You might only script the first few sentences and that's it. So this is where I want to now introduce a basic roadmap for you. If you're ready to experiment with this format, start your own video show for your business, I'm going to introduce you to the minimum viable show. This is a roadmap where you can test the waters to see if you even like the idea of making a show for yourself. This is not for everyone. I call this it's using the SETL framework. I just made it up. I can't quote anyone else because I just sort of made this thing up. So let us now shift gears as I get this going. Bear with me. So here, what I'm suggesting to you is this minimum viable show framework. And this is what you can do to get started. And it's low stakes. But this is what I'm suggesting. In this minimum viable show roadmap, what you can do is commit to just one season. Just one season for your video show, your video podcast. So this means that if you do the show and you don't like it, well, you only did one season. You didn't commit to something that was ongoing where you might say, oh, I'm going to do this every single week, but you hate it. You absolutely loathe it and you never want to do it again. Well, then it was just an experiment. Think of it like a sprint, a content sprint that you just do and you know it's going to be challenging, hard, but you're willing to give it a go for a season. So that's it. That's all you got to do to start your show. Commit to one season. How many episodes do you need? I'm going to be very arbitrary here. I'm going to say you commit to 8 episodes for your first show. I say 8 because of other shows that I've watched in the past, and they have a minimum, about 8 episodes. That's about, if you did this weekly, that's about 2 months. When I did my first stint in radio many years ago, we committed to a 3-month stint. That was community radio. And I had to come up with content every single week for those 3 months. It was really hard, right? By the 3rd month, you're really scraping the barrel. And that back then I was much younger. So, there was a lot of learning I needed to do. So 8 episodes. We're talking about 2 months. That will give you an idea if you like the process. Definitely. You won't burn out, I promise, especially if you keep this really simple. Here's the other thing that will help you to not burn out in this experiment. let's set a time limit. And what I'm saying here, limit it to around 20 minutes. That's what I would suggest would be the minimum bar for a show. Again, some of these examples I've given you, they go for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. See if you can aim for about 20 minutes for your show. And you'll find that, if you just prepare yourself with an outline, that 20 minutes will go really, really quickly. L. Now, I've got this in brackets because this part is optional. But if you learn to master this format and have the right sort of tech setup, this could be another way to differentiate yourself. And this is going live. So you learn to live stream. You have your outline in place. You have everything set up and you do it one take and you do it at the same time every week. It could be like a midweek show. It could be end of the week wrap up. So Peter Schiff does a weekly show he talks about commodities, gold, silver, that kind of thing. He does a weekly wrap up of the commodities market and he does it live. He does it at the same time. So you might want to experiment for one season, doing once a week, go live. And this is where like the opportunity to really be authentically human. Again, you can't hide behind AI when you're live. And sometimes you just got to roll with the punches here. And Gary Vee talks a lot about the advantage of going live, the interactivity, really connecting with people. But that, I've got that in brackets because that is optional. If you want to go down that path, awesome, give it a go. You'll definitely learn a thing or two by going live. So that's it. That's a SETL framework for getting into your first video show. Here we go. So that's the framework. This is something that anyone can do if they want to try it out. All right. You don't have to go live if you don't want to, but it's a way for you to get started. So here's my challenge. If this resonated with you in any way and you are ready to start making some content for your business and you want to give it a go for a season, try the SETL framework and live if you're really, really keen. The more you can start creating a library of content, you'll be able to do a few things. Here's the advantage of doing it this way. If you record and you do one take, there's minimal editing. You just run with what you've got. You might want to maybe edit maybe the beginning and the end, things like that, like minimally. But this is for people who don't have time for a lot of editing. So that's one advantage of this. The other advantage is that once you've got something that's long form, like I said, around 20 minutes or so, you now have the advantage of clipping that. So, for example, if you were to say, use something like Opus Clip, you feed it long form content and the AI will pick up the most memorable moments and you'll now be able to share those short clips on LinkedIn or wherever you interact with your prospects. And again, this is for people who aren't interested in editing. If you want to just build awareness and let people know on, say, LinkedIn that this is what you're up to, and you don't want to be involved in, having to do a lot of fancy edits yourself because you don't have the time and you want something that's going to be high leverage, this could be something for you. Now, and there are other platforms that do this. I believe Descript is another one that does something similar. Capwing. If you were to record your video show using Riverside, it also does AI clips. If you do StreamYard, that also offers AI clips. Again, for those who don't want to be involved in editing. Now, I will say this. I have tried these different formats, as in these different platforms, and because I'm the video editor, a lot of the time I find that those clips are hit and miss. Sometimes they're okay. Occasionally they're actually pretty good. A lot of the times though, the editor inside of me feels like this. I'm not really happy with the outputs. But again, if you're not the video editor by heart like me, and you just want to start getting something out there, let people know what you're up to, that you're doing stuff, that you're actually documenting things in a video format, and have them go and visit your website, or have them go visit your YouTube channel, or find out more about you, so they actually know that you exist. That could be an easy way to do that. Again, another reason why long form gives you a lot more leverage. You have something to work with here. So that is the invitation to you. Now, if the idea of doing this yourself is overwhelming and you really just want to load this off to someone else, and all you want to do is to show up in like a platform online and have someone ask you the right questions to get your insights and your experiences, the best stuff out of your head, and have that person go and create those 8 episodes for you, or 12 episodes, and then take care of all of those short clips for you. So all you have to worry about is just posting the content, and you only need to show up for like an hour a week. This is where I can help you. That is an offer that I have for people who want to start building their long form content on YouTube and want to start showing up on LinkedIn for business purposes. That is an offer that I have. So if all you want to do is show up once a week for 30 to 60 minutes, you can start building your own B2B show today. So if this is of interest to you, reach out to me, look up my details, and you'll be able to find my email on the YouTube channel. Add a comment. So here's my invite to you. So you can add a comment to this video below and tell me what you think about this concept. Is a B2B show right for you, do you think? Okay, let me know. So that's the show. Thanks for watching. If you've been watching to the very end, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time for another video.